Doing good, man. How's it going?
Me 45 seconds. My girlfriend just showed up. Ari just showed up on a horse
Nice. That's great.
in the driveway. So I just
Okay.
gotta go see that, and I'll be right back.
No problem.
And then we'll proceed.
Okay. So in this podcast, this is an overlay, obviously, of my voice. We're going to be talking to Johnny Defeo, who's a wildlife and landscape painter, currently living in Taos, New Mexico. And we'll be meandering around a bit on a variety of topics, but here on the Painting Podcast, we try to focus things around painting. So we're going to be talking about paintings, and one of the questions, a prompt I've asked everybody, is to think of 5 paintings that they'd like to live with in their life. So that's going to come up throughout the conversation as we begin to talk. So here we go.
Hi.
Horse look good?
It's a good looking horse.
What color is it?
Like a chestnutty,
Chestnutty.
or no, maybe a little more like a buckskin.
Is that a roan? I think they call that a roan horse.
Maybe it's a roan.
It's a roan.
I don't know. We're just learning about horses.
I grew up with horses.
You did?
Strangely. Yeah, we had 3 horses on our farm. Like, I grew up in the city on the bad streets of Bismarck, North Dakota. But
Oh yeah.
we also had a farm.
Man,
Yeah,
those mean streets.
My grandpa bought like an Arabian later in life. It was kind of like a late midlife crisis sort of buying a convertible sort of thing, because he was like in his 60s and he bought like this beautiful Arabian that was just too wild to ride. But
Pretty to look at though.
it was, yeah, he'd pop his tail up and prance around. Yeah, it was all right.
That's great. Did you ever ride?
Yeah, badly. I mean, we had a little the big Arabian was called Fantasy, and then we had a little like pony called Nightmare. And yeah, I'd ride Nightmare.
Tight.
But yeah, it wasn't I got bucked off when I was like 4 or 5, but you know, the memories of that experience are probably pretty exaggerated.
Same. I was just talking about this with our like friend here is teaching us about horses. She's
Okay.
like a professional wrangler, and they
Nice.
keep their horses down the street from us.
Okay.
And so we're like, Ari's always wanted a horse, and I, same as you, kind of. I think I went for like a trail ride when I was like 7
Yeah.
and fell off. Probably my own fault, you know. And ever since then, I just like hated horses. And then 2 years ago, we went with Ari's work on like this work retreat thing, and to a dude ranch. And I was like, well, if someone else is paying for me to go horseback riding multiple days, I'm going to go. And it was just the absolute nicest. And now I'm just obsessed with them.
You get a nice horse, then you're set. If it's got the right
What else do you
temperament.
need?
You got to
What
get the
else?
temperament though. You just don't fall in love, you know?
Right. Well, we actually bought a horse 2 weeks ago.
Oh, really? So you have a horse now.
This trainer, the Wrangler girl, is going to help us. Like, it was like 17. Had a really good temperament, had been doing trail rides or whatever.
Nice.
And it died.
What?
Fucking died the day before it was supposed to get transported to us.
Shit. Why? Okay.
What do you do?
Do you have to still pay for the horse, or do you get to...
No, they refunded us, which was actually very kind, because I don't think contractually they were obligated to refund us.
Wow.
But since we never even touched it, let alone saw it in real life, I think they were like, well, this isn't a good first horse experience for you guys.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, you got like a stable or something like that they could go to? That you
Yeah,
keep
right
them
down
at?
the street.
Okay, nice. Right on. Yeah, because that's one thing where it's like with me growing up, we always had horses. We even like literally, believe it or not, we would like push cows with horses. Like when we'd like move
You were
them
a cowboy.
I guess. I always say that we should call our farm a ranch. My dad's always like, he's like, we got to start calling it a ranch because that's, more masculine. Because like a farm is kind of like, oh, you're raised on a
Yeah,
farm.
but like a farm as an undercover ranch is a lot better than like people thinking. Then you be like, I got ranch, and then they're always asking you for steaks and shit. You know.
We did have a lot. We had like 2 freezers full, basically, of meat, which wasn't good for me, because I grew up vegetarian. So
Oh,
I grew up
hard for you too.
hunting and a vegetarian. So that was a
Right.
good combination, really. So you want to pronounce your name for us?
Sure. My name pronounced correctly is Johnny Defeo.
Johnny Defeo. And Johnny and I went to the same school, actually. You were one of the last people that I saw before the lockdown happened, actually, in the hallways.
How tragic for you.
You were just finishing class, and I think I was coming in, and you were like, dude, they're going to let us all like teach from home. And it was
I
like
was pretty excited about it.
But it was like a foreign concept. We're like, what? Teach painting from a house? You know? And now we're a year into it, and I've taught like you're teaching there too right now, yeah? You're teaching painting?
I am, yeah. I'm still teaching that painting class.
Okay, so you've taught like over 200 students probably this year online.
Not that many. How many did you have in your section?
I had like 70 a semester.
Oh yeah, I guess I had like 70. So yeah, I guess that's a lot. Yeah,
it's like 200
or
so. So yeah, just starting out. Parents, were they artistic? You know, how you got started with the arts? Like, where do you even come from? I don't know anything about like where you grew up, all that sort of stuff. So if you give me the breakdown on that.
I grew up in Connecticut, in not the part that a lot of people think Connecticut is like not Greenwich. I was in the boring, I call them like faux farmers. There were a lot of people who like had farms but didn't grow anything or raise any kind of animals, but they really dug into the farm lifestyle. Like they liked the aesthetic of it, I think. My parents.
I lived in Connecticut too for a while.
You did? We're in Connecticut.
Old Lyme.
Old Lyme.
I went to the Lyme Academy of Fine Arts. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was my first year, my first real year of school.
Cool.
Yeah. So I'm familiar with like the difference between like Old Lyme versus New London, you know, or something like that.
Yeah.
So
pretty similar difference. Yeah.
Connecticut has a wide breadth of people and places for sure. Cool.
A lot of grumps, though. I mean, generally different types of grumpy people, but there are a lot of grumps in Connecticut. That's why I had to go.
All right. What was the town called?
Berlin, Connecticut. Which was called Berlin, Connecticut. And then during the Second World War, our big contribution to the war effort was to officially change the pronunciation of the name of the town to Berlin and take the accent off the second syllable so that no one would accidentally think we were allied with the German forces during World War II.
Okay. Oh, really? Oh, yeah. It was a German thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So it was Berlin. You get up to Berlin? I could see that. Yeah, there's been some strange ones with that. I remember as well, like in the 80s. When were you born?
85.
85. So you're about the same age as me as well. So you got a little bit of Cold War. Well, not too much. A little bit of Cold War in you. But they banned...
I remember like little bit of grumblings on like the radio, you know, the alarm radio. I'd remember like hearing some strange stuff.
Get to
for
the
a kid to
shelter.
Hear, yeah.
Yeah, they got mad at Smurfs for a while because they were supposedly like a socialist, like teaching children about communism and stuff like that. So
what a nightmare! Teaching kids to share, awful. Get it off the TV.
Yeah, one of my friends had one of those Hot Wheels with a big Smurf on it. You know those like 3-wheel things that you'd pedal around, and his dad took the Smurf off the front, like. There was like a Smurf head on the front of the steering wheel area, and the dad like took it off during the Smurf scare. But yeah,
Another valiant effort to like, save the world.
they almost got
Really
it.
good.
So were your parents artistic or encouraging as you were growing up?
My mom was always a doodler. And I got that from her. I remember like very vividly her like being on the phone, like a corded spiral cord phone, and sitting there and like filling an entire piece of paper up with like little doodles and even just like little patterns and designs and stuff. And I just like started doing that myself when I was like a kid.
Nice.
And I still will find myself doing that sometimes, like if I'm on the phone or something, just like outlining letters,
Right. Just like
and then turning those into little, yeah.
Nice.
And she was very like craft based. She's a teacher.
Okay.
And always had some kind of like, we're gonna cut out little pieces of paper and make the hand turkeys or whatever, but it's not like a lot more elaborate. Nice. For sure. Like it was like full afternoon.
Cool.
What are we getting into with mom today?
So you had some good supplies in the house probably as well.
Great supplies in the house. There was always glitter. There was always, that construction paper that like, smells really weird and bad. That's like the different colors, and they're all like really bland, the most bland red, the most bland yellow you've ever seen.
Right.
We always had that stuff kicking around.
Nice. Right on.
Yeah.
So you like growing up, were you encouraged in your art making like through junior high and high school in terms of like teachers you had, or was there kind of a breaking point where you were like, I think I might end up doing this?
I was, what's the best way to put it? Like annoying and a bit of a bully and bored and in school a lot of the time. And art was the only subject I would like shut up and just actually sit there and do it and enjoy doing it. And so I think I was encouraged more so just to shut up sometimes.
Yeah.
But then I think because I was paying attention to it, like started to really get into it and say, oh, this is like really great. And I think maybe potentially a turning point for me, I was thinking about this the other day, was that in high school, when I graduated, a scholarship, an art scholarship.
Okay.
There was like a big art show for all the seniors who wanted to put something in it. And then I like won the art scholarship.
Okay.
And
this is like,
I was like, you know what?
Your senior
maybe
year?
I'm good. Yeah, this was senior year of high school.
Okay. What was the painting of or the drawing of? Do you remember?
It was a self-portrait. It was a self-portrait as a dog. And with like laying on a tile floor with like a food bowl, but it had chicken parm in it, which was my favorite chicken parmesan, like my favorite Italian dish. And then its paw was like stretched out and wrapped around an old English 40. And for some reason, whoever the juror was for this art show just really got a kick out of it. And
that would be tough not to resonate with.
Something that I don't see now if I look at it. They were really on a different level, this person.
Well, you have that when you're teaching sometimes too, right? When you're like, you see something that's really good, but the person making it has no idea that it's good and they think it's bad. And you're like, no, just keep on keeping on.
I tell the kids sometimes, I'll write them a little like email that's like, do whatever you're doing and please ignore my instruction for the remainder of the semester. Just like turn something in that looks like this last thing. Like keep going with that.
So
because you don't want to ruin them.
Right.
So many kids get ruined by bad teachers.
Yeah. I guess I never, maybe I just had thick skin or something, or it was kind of like water off a duck's back. I definitely had a few like kind of brutal crits throughout the years. Like I can remember Jed Pearl. Have you ever heard of him? He's like he writes for New York Times and stuff like that, but he came into my studio at CU and he was like exasperated. Like not angry, but he was more just like kind of exasperated. Like what's it about? Like it's got to be about something, you know, like Picasso's portraits are still people. Like, and I was like, oh, well, these are different kinds of people. But do you have any memories of like a brutal critique that you had?
Ooh, brutal critique.
Or
I
something
think
that
the one,
stuck in your mind good as well. It could
yeah,
be
I mean,
good
I,
or
I
bad.
have probably my most brutal critique, but I didn't care about it at that point. Like someone just came in and was just vicious in grad school.
Mm-hmm.
But like at that point, you're kind of like, I'm doing what I'm doing. I don't really care that you don't like it or think it's stupid or whatever. But in undergrad, I had this like, it was like a drawing of a mountain. It was really like influenced by snowboard graphic art, you know, like what was on snowboards in 2002 or something.
Nice.
And the professor is old school guy who I like grow to appreciate more and more as I distance myself from being in his class over the years. He's had some real gems that he would say, but he just goes, I don't know what the hell you think this is, but it's not good. And I just and I just like I had like made this thing. I was so excited for crit. It was like the big end of the semester class crit. And then I like march it up there on the easel, and he's just like, the kids kind of were like, that's rad, that's cool. No, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
that's interesting. And there's no real feedback. And then he
Right.
just goes, it's just not good. It doesn't look like anything. You should try again.
That's always tough. Yeah, with the good and bad thing. And then everybody's like, oh, it's all just relative anyway, you know? It's all just relative if you like it, which I don't think is kind of true because like we don't have like relatively
No,
good music. We all kind of know like Michael Jackson, or wait, we're not allowed to talk about Michael Jackson.
no, no, no,
500
no,
reasons.
no.
Oof,
Move on.
wrong foot. Prince? Prince. Everybody
Prince,
loves
great.
Prince, right?
Right.
It's hard not to understand like Purple Rain is a good song.
Well, I think that brings up a point that I think about a lot. I think a lot more people are allowed to get away with making bad artwork. And I don't mean bad like bad,
Yeah,
theoretically bad, like shit you don't want to look at,
right.
because it's way less grating than sitting through, like, if someone was like, hey, let me show you my painting. You look at it and you go, that's cool, man. And you can move on with your life. You're not as assaulted as like your musician friend who's not good at playing music, who's like, hey, listen to my new album and tell me what you think. Like, you're spending 42 minutes going like,
Right.
oh, just quit. Please just quit. I hate this. I hate you. I hate doing this.
And then music has like a real right answer too.
Right.
No, it's like that's flat. You're flat. You're like, I'm not flat. It's like you're literally flat. I can hold up a machine that says you're flat. You know, it's
Right.
not like
Right.
these colors aren't harmonious. But I suppose like, you know, that's one thing that's great about painting is that you get to kind of just feel it out, the harmony
Well,
of the
there's always the
colors or
people
something.
too that are like, well, that's the point.
Yeah.
That's the point. Is that it? And you're just like, well, I don't like your point. I'm not here for your point. I don't want to be a part of this point.
True. Have you had any so if you were to give some advice for young painters coming up, what would you tell them if you're
Oh
going to
man.
teach them something? They're 18, they like your paintings, they want to make wildlife paintings, or not wildlife,
Wow.
landscape paintings.
I would my advice would be to like get deep into figuring out your what you like, what you think is good, and then like turn your phone off, turn your computer off. Don't look at anyone else's artwork for like 4 years until you can paint what you think is pretty good,
Mm-hmm.
and then like go back into saying, how do I make this better? I think people jump around a lot,
Right.
which is fine, but like I don't think that's the way to get good at anything
The
other than
Instagramification.
learning how to jump around and change like a chameleon by what's
Right. I've thought about it too, where I'm like, maybe I should just. When I was painting for a while, I was doing all the cut up portraits and stuff like that. And during that series, it was like so digital and cold and exploding, and everybody thought they were violent. A lot of people think my paintings are really violent, and I'm just
Yeah,
like, "Huh?"
totally.
You're like, yeah, of course.
Sure.
And yeah, so I did a couple of like people on like drinking in the park together, and I did these really quiet paintings, and I was like, maybe I should just like paint, flowers and stuff like that. You ever feel like you want to just like switch things up or approach things like a project, or you know what I mean, like
I
create a
mean,
series of works about a certain subject or something like that?
I actually just had this dream about these. We were talking about horses. These two sisters that are like teaching me and my girlfriend about horsemanship and how to take care of horses, and we're just kind of obsessed with horses. And I had this dream about doing a show about the horse sisters, and so it'd just be like horses and these girls and the landscape.
Yeah.
And not that my work currently is not pastoral and sweet, but
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I don't know, sometimes I feel like changing it up drastically. I'd love to just make a series of violent paintings like you're known for, all the violence.
That, I mean, yeah, you could get it out of your system.
Yeah, totally.
We're both,
Sitting here
doing
just
the wrong
filled with
thing.
rage, painting foxes and shit,
Yeah. It's like most of the pastoral scenes, those are wrong, aren't they? Abstract expressionism, also wrong. So,
Mm-hmm.
maybe we should just switch.
Change it up. Did you do any? You did some of the sweeter paintings though, yeah?
Yeah, I did a couple, like people, like I said,
Did you
it was,
get bored?
um, hmm. Not really. They were kind of like playful. They were really playful, and it could be like figurative in a way I didn't care. Like
Mm-hmm.
goofy figurative, like Picasso kind of figurative, where you're just like blah 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 a little bit. Like if you've ever seen the documentary called The Picasso Mystery or The Mystery of Picasso, it's super cool. It's just him painting the whole documentary.
Oh,
It's
great. I
and
could do that.
and it's like a neurotic French guy smoking cigarettes, and like Picasso has like a screen, it's that reverse thing where they like shine a light through the paper so you can see the other side of it.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And he's like neurotically smoking cigarettes, and he's like, you got 5 minutes of film left, like in French basically. And then he's like turning a turkey into a beautiful woman or something like that. So
Well, that sounds great.
yeah. But yeah, with the with like changing it up, I guess, in terms of like changing up stuff, I didn't get bored, and it just kind of was like one of those things where it was like, oh, I'm gonna paint this now. And I was, instead of like making portraiture, I was like, this is gonna be a person in the park. So I've been thinking more about that, especially because like my paintings got a lot more popular over the whole lockdown thing too. That was kind
Mm-hmm.
of, but maybe people were just going,
Congratulations.
maybe they were just going crazy though. And they're like really resonating with them.
People might have just literally lost their minds, and you might have been where it landed.
They just
But
looked
that's
at
great.
it like, this is a great
Either
painting
way.
of a penguin,
Um,
What's your what would you say your top subject matter is?
just Earth, just the Earth, the places that I'd like to be. I think, actually, to be more specific, if I'm not painting what's in front of me, a place that I am enjoying being, I'm generally painting from memory a place that I wish I was instead of where I currently am, which is usually my studio.
Mm-hmm. And what city are you in right now?
I am in Taos, New Mexico right now.
What's that like?
It's dusty. It's very windy. Well, I'm not in Taos. I'm in Arroyo Hondo, which is a small little town just north of Taos. And it's just like a big sea of sage. And
Nice.
the Rio Grande is about a quarter mile from my house.
Cool.
And it's just very sweet and quiet and soft here, and I really like it. And Taos is pretty cool and crusty in a way that I really like.
Nice.
And it's kind of like a haven for weirdos and successful weirdos, and there's a lot of like really great artists and musicians and actors that all kind of have quiet little places just outside of Taos.
Oh, cool. Is it I know like the desert itself, is it like really deserty where you're at? I've never been to Taos.
It's not so deserty. It's like high desert.
Okay.
It's not like cartoon mesa saguaro cactus desert. Yeah. It's a little bit harsh, but there are Taos specifically a lot of little pockets of little creeks, and the mountains are there. So there's aspen trees and lush little places you can go hide from the desert sun. But if you're just walking on the mesa in the middle of the summer, it's feels pretty deserty. There's cactus, there's rattlesnakes, all the check boxes.
Scorpions?
I don't know if there's scorpions. I don't think there's scorpions here.
Nice. I saw a scorpion walking in a house, and it like I couldn't sleep the rest of the night. When I was in Arizona, I was just like, no. It was little too, and those are the bad ones apparently. So I was like, doubly worse. So what brought you to Taos?
That's a great question. As like kind of new agey as it sounds, it's just really good energy here. Just feels good to be here.
Nice.
And there's a lot of less new agey reasons that I could say, but I think that's the main one. We were living in Denver after grad school at CU, and we had a list of maybe 8 places in the US that we were medium excited to move. And Taos just kept moving to the top of the list. So we just found a place and went for it.
And your girlfriend also has a gallery there, right?
She does. She opened a gallery called The Valley, which is at the Valley Taos. If anyone wants to check it out on Instagram, you got to plug the girlfriend's gallery for sure. And she actually, we had put an offer on a house, and we were down here. We didn't even know if we were actually going to get the place or anything. And she was on Craigslist, like looking for patio furniture or something, and found this gallery space on Craigslist and went and signed the lease on it that day. And we were just like, I was like, I guess we're really definitely moving to Taos then, huh?
You got a gallery now. Or well, she's got a gallery, I should say.
She's got a gallery. I'm an intern. I'm an intern at the gallery.
You're getting coffee.
Yeah, I'm doing coffee runs. I'm hanging stuff on the walls.
Oh, okay, that's true. And I know you do have some experience like hanging and moving art and stuff like that. How did that work out? Like, you hung one of my paintings. I know you have this big truck. How did that come about? You getting a big truck and starting a business kind of on your own.
Well, that's kind of a long story, but I can trace it back probably to right after undergrad. I moved back to Connecticut, central Connecticut, and the town next to Berlin is called New Britain. And in New Britain, there's a great museum called the New Britain Museum of American Art. And I was at one of their like late night functions that tries to get younger crowd interested in art, blah, blah, blah. And ended up getting like pretty drunk and talking to some guy. And I was like, oh, this guy's cool. Fucking James, he's cool. And I wake up and there's an email from James that was like pretty much, hey, you start next week. And I was like, start what? I don't even really remember what I was talking about. And so it turns out I had talked my way into a job as the like exhibition coordinator and kind of, it was like an entry level like art handling and whatever job. And so I did that for like 2.5 years, and it was great. You get to see all the things that are like hidden in the storage of the museum, and I got to go travel all over the country, and actually went to Japan for a week to courier one of my favorite paintings from the museum.
Nice.
And it was like an amazing experience. I was like in the storage at the Met at one point
Wow.
with like a curator who was just walking me through thousands of objects. Like,
Is it super climate controlled there and feel like you're in a storage at the Met?
you feel like you're in Fort Knox. It's crazy.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like they have a lot of rooms inside of the storage that feel like they're doing alien autopsies or something, like these clean
Nice.
rooms where everything is white and there's like plastic sheeting and like air ducts sucking out the air and replacing it every like
Wow.
13 seconds, so there's no dust particles in the whole room or whatever. Very cool. Ours did not look or feel like that at all. Ours felt like your like grandparents' basement, like their root cellar a little bit.
To get her done.
But it was a great experience, and that was kind of where I fell in love with the idea of like getting to touch art.
Mm-hmm.
I realized that like a lot of people don't ever get to like touch a painting, you know.
True. Yeah.
And I got to like manhandle these things, and it was really fun. And it feels there's something different about it, and you like have all these quiet or loud moments with things. Like I dropped a Thomas Moran painting once when I was hanging it. I was trying to hang it by myself, and I shouldn't have been. And just shattered this like ornate frame.
Oh my God. How big was it?
It was like probably the painting itself was probably 24 by 36, but the frame was probably like a 14-inch gold leaf, super ornate frame.
Oh, man.
And I just broke it like in half. Like the whole corner broke off.
But only the frame, luckily.
Just the frame, luckily, yeah. And luckily we had a frame restorer guy on the board at the museum, and that was like, I became kind of like an indentured servant at that point. They were like, well, you can't leave now.
Yeah.
You've learned this lesson. We don't want.
It's like leaving
need
your
you to
wallet
stay.
at home and you got to do the dishes, basically, at the restaurant. But
Yeah.
Is Thomas Moran one of your people? He's a big
He is
landscape.
one of my people. Yeah, he's one of my favorite painters of all time. Just
Cool.
great.
You're like the.
I would maybe take that painting actually.
Yeah, let's get into your paintings. Give me one of your paintings. One of your
I'll go with that painting. It's oh man, now that I'm on the spot, I can't think of the name of it. But it's this beautiful painting of a storm rolling into the Hudson Valley or somewhere like that, with these like beautiful rapids in the foreground.
Nice. He's like probably turn of the or late 1850s or something like that. End of the 19th century, I imagine.
You were right on the date.
All right.
1864.
Hudson
Would
Valley
I pick
School.
that one?
Oh no.
I would maybe take his Grand Canyon painting. I think for the story, we'll stick with this one.
Fair enough. And can you imagine living with this in your house?
Oh yeah. It's a beautiful painting. He is just so moody, that guy.
Who's the oh man, I can't believe I can't think of his name. The Birchfield? Is that his name?
Birchfield?
Yeah, Birchfield. Charles Birchfield.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm making that name up, but it's right. He's also like turn of the 20th century, but amazing and expressionistic and psychedelic.
He's just outside the top 5, I think.
Nice.
He was up there.
Yeah, I could imagine that he'd be in the running. I subscribed to the hashtag for him on Instagram.
Oh yeah,
it's just like consistently so much better than everything else I see on Instagram. It's just like, how can you be just? I don't know. I mean, the color, the palette, it's so like muted and like somber and rainy, but also like sometimes it's just like yellow and you're like "Brr," just like
But
plopping
it
the
just
yellow down.
emanates joy too at the
Yeah.
same time. There was like this, like a lot of these guys had this like reverence, like the spirituality,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Right.
and
Do you know Albrecht Altdorfer? Have you ever heard of
I
him?
think so.
He's one of
Well,
the first German landscape painters, but it was all about that kind of like, yeah, I don't know how to encapsulate it really quickly, but exuberance, the joy
oh
of
yeah, these are wild.
biodiversity, and he's got a couple huge ones which are,
These like fight scenes are
yeah,
crazy.
yeah, the fight scenes make no sense. On the details, there's like 1,000 little like spears and stuff like that.
So cool.
But his like his landscapey stuff is pretty amazing too. But it's kind of interesting. Like there's always like this with him, at least I know there's like a big intersection with religion as well, and like spirituality of some sort.
Well, I mean, I was talking about this with a few people, this prompt,
Mm-hmm.
and if it wasn't paintings, that yeah, a lot of people were like, well, I don't know what paintings I would choose, but it was always like a James Turrell, you
Okay.
know, or like a Olafur Eliasson or something, you know, like these
Okay.
big, just glowy things that have to do with some kind of like mystical
Okay.
spirit. And no one
Right.
wants to like call it God or whatever anymore, right? So, but they
Right.
want to call it like something. Terrell, I guess, would talks about God, and
I
he's like
imagine he
very.
would. I met him
I think he's
actually.
like,
I sold him a eraser. I worked at an art store in Flagstaff, Arizona. And yeah, I sold him an eraser actually, which is
wow,
better than
brush, brush with greatness.
a laser pointer or something. But I didn't even know until he left. And then my coworker was like, "That's James Turrell." I'm like, "Oh, okay."
Cool.
But I mean, he seemed super chill, like a normal human being at least. And he's
Yeah,
right
he
out.
didn't like float. He didn't just like levitate.
No, didn't come in on a hoverboard. But
Cool.
now he wasn't a big deal. I mean, he was a big deal back then, but now it's kind of ascended to what is he? He's probably in his late 70s now, so I imagine um, he's getting to godlike status. And didn't Kanye use him in a video or somebody? Drake, maybe, I think,
Drake.
collaborated with him. There was a couple of the
Let's see.
Dan Flavin. Dan Flavin was another light guy. Just put like neon lights in the corner and stuff like that.
Yeah, less impressed with him for some reason. I don't know.
Just like there's light. If people can use real light, like there's one I've never seen it, but I know Terrell has one of just the sky, um, just like a square where you go and you look at the sky. I like that. You don't need much more,
That's like what the whole crater thing is.
right? I've just seen like some mock-ups of it. I don't think it's even open, is it? Yeah.
I think it might have like just opened
Okay.
potentially.
Do you feel like
I don't know.
would you want to go see that and
Oh yeah,
experience it?
yeah. I'm a fanboy for
Okay.
sure. Yeah.
So that's pretty, do you have any other artists that are like not painters who you kind of like resonate with like that you can imagine or think of? Terrell's kind of a
Mm.
strange one because it's so hard not to like him because he's just too good, you know?
Well, he's kind of emblematic of this like feeling that I think is missing from so many people's work, where people are just trying to be so smart and smarter than the viewer and sarcastic and whatever. And he's like, "Have you looked at the fucking sky lately?
Yeah.
Take a look at it." Or like, you ever just like looked at like colors? They're pretty cool, right? Like
Right.
he's just not. And you can write whatever you want and you can frame it however you want, but like
Yeah.
there's just this really basic like awe that he's embracing in his work that's like, this is crazy, isn't it? Crazy.
Yeah.
Look how cool that is.
I don't even know anything about what I have no idea what's written about his work at all, but I
I
still love
can't
it,
even
you know?
read, so I don't. It's a fun fact about me.
I mean, I was going to ask you about, like, you know, with writing statements and those sort of things. What are your opinions on those? Do you read statements when you go into galleries? Do you ignore them? How do you feel about
I
writing them
will.
yourself?
I like to look first, and then usually I'll read a statement. I mean, I'll generally always read a statement if there's one around. I'll care to read it. I'll be excited to read it if I don't. If I look at the work and I'm just like, I don't care about this, or I don't get this, or whatever.
Right.
I like to know what the person was thinking, mainly so that I can say, well, don't do that, whatever this is.
Yeah.
Don't do this in the future.
You mean
It's
in
like
the
a learning
statement?
experience.
In the statement itself or in the work? Like, don't do this in the statement?
Like
You
it,
mean?
like when you read a statement and you're just like, this isn't that.
Right. Right. Okay.
So then it's just kind of like, well, make sure you don't do this in the future. It just goes into like the lessons I've learned from someone else box.
Right. And sometimes it can be
The
annoying.
other great reason to read a statement is to ridicule
Right.
the like over contextualization, the language. I mean, it's got its own language that's just batshit. Drives a lot of people out the door.
Well, it's like, I mean, what is it? It is a question. Like, if you're writing a statement for a residency about a certain place, it kind of makes sense that you want to, you know, show people that are reading 100 statements. Maybe you stick out in some way, or you know what I mean? Like, that kind of makes sense to me. Or like maybe there's an academic that you know is reviewing these things, and you're like, okay, I have to sound smart
Right.
for this.
Right.
But like when you're in a gallery setting, I don't know who the hell they think they're talking to.
It baffles me. And I sometimes Ari and I will go, and Ari is she got a degree in art history.
Oh boy.
And is always writing and reading these kinds of things. And we will go in and grab a copy of the statement and then like take it home and cross things out and then rewrite it in the plainest language that we can. And sometimes it'll be boiled down to like 2 sentences.
Yeah.
And to what we think is a much better statement. So I mean, that's probably a good insight into how I'm learning to write statements. I wouldn't even say that I'm good at that, but I think I've come to like, from going to grad school, there's like, they want you to write more and more and more. And I think eventually you boil that down and say like, how can I say this in like 2 sentences that don't sound pretentious? I think some people never do that, but
I mean, that's the best exercise I've given to my students before too, where oftentimes I'll find they have the best lines at the end because they're trying to like do the kind of conclusion, like write a conclusion for their statement, and they'll be like clear for like a second. And then it's always like, it's like a trick almost where you're like, I think this sentence should be in the front, you know? And then
like,
and
then you should just delete the rest of this.
Yeah, just get rid of that. Or like, the other idea where it's like you're at a barbecue with a bunch of people from a financial consulting agency. And some guy comes up and he's like, hey, what do you do? You know? And then you say, I'm a painter, you know, or probably, right? Do you say you're a painter or an artist? I say I'm a painter generally, but
I usually say painter so that if I don't want to talk to the person about art and they start talking about art and I don't want to engage, I can be like, oh no, I'm a painter. I paint.
And then you know the next question. So what do you paint?
So what do you paint? Yeah.
So
usually there's an in-between statement that's like, my sister paints.
Okay.
Or like,
true.
They want to qualify that they know a little something about art here. I'm not just your average guy off the street.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, it's true with painting. We leave stuff. You know, painters leave stuff around too. It's not like musician. Like if your sister was a musician, nobody would have to deal with her songs, you know, in the basement, taking up space. And then you got to hand her song down to your granddaughter and all this.
That's interesting. It goes back a little bit to what we were saying about how assaultive it is in the moment, a bad song.
Yeah.
But in the past, you can remember it as this, oh, she was just the most wonderful singer.
Yeah.
But there's no recordings ever, like you can just, you say she was in the moment, maybe you don't want to listen to her, but like when you put a little bit of nostalgia on it, what a sweet song that was. Just so lovely.
Everything was great. The time and place probably play a huge role in that, I'm sure.
But then I think you gotta, if you are not a good painter, you have to burn all your paintings when you die, before you die.
That's
so that everyone just, so then it's just this like hand-me-down story of like, he was such a great painter. There are no surviving paintings, but he was so good.
This will be like the Huffington Post title of your podcast. If you're a bad painter, you just have to burn your paintings before you die.
That's a way to leave a legacy, the correct way to do it.
Yeah. Baldessari
Make sure there's no evidence to the contrary.
Baldessari burned all his paintings and made them into cookies. So,
He was a cool guy.
Yeah. That's one way to do it. Just, I don't know if people ate the cookies. Probably not too good to eat them.
Probably not, no.
Now they'd probably, back when I was growing up, we'd eat the cadmium cookies, but
I was going to say, back in the 60s, there weren't many things that could hurt you on paper,
Right. Cadmium. Are you, do you paint so you paint all in oils, yeah?
No, acrylic.
Those are all acrylics?
Yeah, mostly, yeah.
Okay. That's
I love oil painting though. And it's really just a health thing. I don't, until I have a studio that I can that's not in my house. I just don't like having all that stuff floating around.
Right. Dang, those look great. I mean, not that I'm saying like those look great for acrylics, but like I just figured they were oils. I didn't know they were actually acrylics. So
go ahead.
When you're painting, like what's your process? You start with a sketch and kind of like block in foreground, middle ground, background, or like how do you jump into a scene that you're painting?
I like to think about what I want to paint until I just can't stand not painting it anymore.
Okay.
Like I might have the urge to start it or something, but I don't want to put paint on a canvas or panel or whatever until I can't stand the thought of not working on it for another minute.
So how long are you working on these paintings generally?
I think my
24
good
by
painting,
36 or something. Yeah.
The one behind me that is 4 by 5 feet, I painted in one day.
Really?
I think that my best paintings are painted in one day, where there's no interruptions to my thought process. The paint's wet all day. I think if I was painting in oil, maybe I could take a little longer.
Mm-hmm.
But I just like to paint fast and with a sense of urgency. I just want it to not have existed in the morning and exist when I go to bed at night,
Nice.
And I don't generally do a sketch. I just I think my best paintings, I pick 3 colors and say these are going to be the main colors in this painting. And I just start in the background and I work forward and then I just continue doing that over and over and over.
And when you mean pick 3 colors, you're talking about tubes or mixed, you mix up 3 colors or?
I'll mix up 3 colors.
Okay.
And just put them on the canvas next to each other and say okay, these are doing what I want in this painting.
Nice.
Because they're usually a whole painting is in service of one little section where these 2 colors just kiss, and it's just this sweet little thing that the whole painting's about.
That might be the thing, right?
Yeah. That's the it's like a love story, you know, and you want there to be some tension and the parts that don't make sense. But then you eventually get to this part where you're just like, all of that's in service of this little 2 square inch section here.
Pink and blue.
Pink and blue, dusky purple and ultramarine.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Nice.
You want to see them get close, and then you just really want to see that kiss. No. And then the story's over. There's no more tension. Move on, next painting.
I wonder why that's the whole deal with like writing and films and all that sort of thing too. It's all about tension, you know? I wonder why we as humans are preoccupied with like gravitating towards things that are kind of unsettling, you know?
Well, you want it to be set in this world where things are chaotic and don't make sense and are horrible or whatever. And you just want to believe that there's a moment where it's all going to be worth it, I think.
So when you're painting these, so we're looking at what, like 7-8 hours maybe on that painting behind you, or more like you're going for marathon sessions, or like
that's probably more like 10
hours. That's a pretty big session then. How often do you do something like that? Like, do you do like a bunch of little paintings, or like how often are you painting actually? I'm checking in.
I almost don't want to say this.
You go crazy for a month and then you take a break.
Podcast. I probably like paint on average probably 2 days a week.
Okay. But you go hard those 2 days. You feel
But I go hard those 2 days.
That's fair enough.
That's maybe an exaggeration.
That's quite a bit though. I mean,
yeah.
Do you feel like are you familiar with Beeple, the guy that made the painting that got sold for $70 million and all that?
I do know of this Beeple, yeah.
I mean, the thing that kind of, you know, Beeple's paintings, digital paintings mostly, didn't seem that exciting to me. But the fact he actually painted every day, he's done this every day for like 12 years now, you know, which is like a whole different art project altogether almost, you know, which is
Beast
kind of
mode.
Yeah, and it's just like unending. He's still doing them too. He's got what, 100 million in the bank, and he's like, oh, I still got to make a painting of Kim Jong-il eating a donut, you know. Like for some reason he keeps going. What do you think? Like, can you describe, like, do you feel obligated to paint, or do you feel like the urge to paint? Like, what motivates you to make work like that when that day comes where you're like, I'm going to do a marathon session and bust this up?
I mean, I think it's that feeling that like I have this idea of a thing I want to look at and it doesn't exist yet.
Mm-hmm.
I think if I had the feeling to make this painting, you know, and then all of a sudden on my Instagram feed, the exact painting I was thinking of popped up, all my motivation to make it would be gone.
Right. There's a sense, so you feel like there's like the sense of accomplishment, like you did it, and there it is.
Yeah, like that didn't exist and now it exists. But the other thing is kind of the more romantic version of that is, like I was saying, these are all places I generally like wish I was, or things I wish I saw or did see, and I just want to sit there and think about it for 10 hours.
Yeah. Do you listen to stuff?
And just say, what was it like that day? I saw that rainbow and I was at the river and it was really golden. And I don't really remember all the details, so it's a little fuzzy. So like, let me try and fill in the details to the best I can remember, or something that gives me the same feeling.
Right.
And it's just kind of a nice way to spend time with a memory.
Cool. And do you listen to stuff when you're painting?
I do. I listen generally to the same like 3.5 hour playlist.
Okay.
And it's because it's all songs I really like that energize me, but that I know so well that I'm not like sick of them even, because I don't even really listen to them.
Right.
It's just something to be on that's familiar, that all have these moments similarly to like the that little moment, that kiss of pink and blue or whatever.
Yeah.
Where it's like you listen to the whole song for that one thing, and I'll catch that part and say to myself, get that in the painting, that feeling, get it.
And then you replay that playlist again. So it goes 3.5
I
hours
listen to that
and then
playlist.
loops.
I probably listened to that playlist 1,500 times in the last year.
Nice. So it's got Hootie and the Blowfish.
Hootie's
Rusted
on
Root.
there. It's almost exclusively Rusted Root with a few Hootie breaks.
Send Me On My Way.
That song is on there in a 10 song chunk. It's just on repeat, and then version. I move on to some other.
But what do you like? Is it a certain genre of songs, or is it more like nostalgic kind of familiarity of the songs?
It's so all over the place. It's like some soundtrack from films that I really like, and it's usually that moment in the film that's like, it's happening.
Nice.
And it goes anywhere from kind of some classical music to some soul, kind of Motown-y stuff, and then into some newer rock stuff or whatever. It's just
cool. I think it's kind of like one of those things. I listen to a lot of like podcasts now. Now I'm kind of like a podcast painter type mode. But before I would only play like these terrible 80s movies. Like I wonder if there's like a similar thing where it's like it's not meant to be watched or kind of paid attention to, but it's there.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And did you watch the same ones kind of over and over?
Endlessly. Ninja 3 is the big one. But yeah, no, I just put it on and you could hear the music from the movie as well, and like
right.
It was kind of
and you'd be like, oh, I like this part. And you like look over for
stop for a second. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Nice.
I like there's something about the familiarity of it that if there's something I'm too interested in or you need to pay attention to for it to make sense,
right?
I don't want my attention on something else. I don't know. I actually don't know how people listen to podcasts when they paint. So many people I talk to listen to podcasts, and I'm just like, I just can't engage in two things at once.
Right. Yeah, I can't do books. I tried to do books, like audiobooks, and I can't do that. So I don't know why podcasts kind of work. But yeah, because like books are too much.
I hate would work.
Yeah.
Like
those are great. Those are great for me. I love ones when there's somebody like I really disagree with, because it like literally takes me out of what I'm doing. But I don't know if that's the goal necessarily. You're kind of the opposite,
aren't you?
Goal
for me.
Right. But yeah, that's true.
I like that for you though.
Yeah, no, because you like, I should probably be more careful with it too, because I often tell my students, I'm like, just do what you normally do, but paint. It's like find 30 minutes. If you're watching whatever on Netflix, the kids are watching these days. Just like if you can use that time, because they're watching an average of 4 hours of Netflix a day.
Right.
So if they can use 30 minutes of that a day to sketch, then it's like get into the routine and actually make something. But
just sketch during the intro to the show.
Right.
5 minutes. We're gonna watch 8 episodes.
Yeah.
That's some real time you can put in.
I had a teacher a long time ago in high school, and he told me to paint or draw from TV, draw people on TV. Like just quick sketches and stuff like that. So when there's like, it'd be like Law and Order. So you'd see the same person again and again, so.
Jerry Orbach, just all day.
I don't know. Who's Jerry Orbach? That's a Law and Order person?
Yeah, he was the guy who was like the grumpy old detective.
Okay.
And then you had Sam Waterston, who's like he was the lawyer guy.
Okay.
With the great hair.
I don't know anything. I was watching Ricky Lake and Judge Judy. So.
Well, you get people and all like a lot more animated if you're watching like Ricky Lake. You got people throwing stuff.
But it's the same person at least.
Yeah.
What would you say? Can you remember the worst painting that you ever did? Or like a painting that you did that you're like, this is awful.
this kind of goes back to the critique question also. I just thought of this when you said that. I made this painting of my grandparents for their anniversary.
Right.
And it was at this point where I felt like I was a lot better at painting than I was.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like decent,
Right.
good enough to like.
Kind of good.
Right. And I mean, I painted this painting, I worked on it, put it in a frame and everything. And I gave it to my grandparents for their wedding anniversary. And my grandpa just goes, "It doesn't look anything like us."
Nice.
And just was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do with this. And he just like gave it back to my dad like the next day or something. And
It was on
just
canvas?
Like, yeah, it was like on canvas. It was oil on canvas. It was varnished. It was like,
Eesh.
But it was, I mean, I found a picture of it and it was bad. It wasn't it didn't look like them and it wasn't good, but my confidence really filled in some gaps on that one.
Was there a lot of burnt sienna like in the background? Trying to make it look like like Rembrandt-y or something?
Super classically painted, dark background, 3/4 portrait, overemphasized light on the face,
Yeah. One side's
Caravaggio
dark.
bullshit.
There you go. Nice. Caravaggio, I mean, yeah, he's the, like, I don't know. Can we learn about Caravaggio anymore? Do they teach Caravaggio in them schools? I don't know.
I feel like they must.
I don't know.
He's the guy.
He is the guy, that's for sure. He had his, like, I know he had a knife. I don't know what was on the knife, but he had a knife with an inscription on it, and it was like, something like biblical, where it's like, he who keeps his knife free from blood disturbs God, or something like that.
Tight.
So I know he was pretty hardcore, and he did stab a guy during a tennis match. So it's not too
tennis.
bad. Supposedly it was like a form of tennis he was playing, and he got in an altercation with the guy he was playing with and stabbed him. That's when he went on the run, and then he started making all the paintings, getting his head chopped off and stuff like that, because he was scared that he was going to get his head chopped off.
Right.
So he like kept painting it. I'm looking through my other questions here. What do you think? Do you have anything that you think is analogous to painting? Like something like painting that's not painting?
That I do, or that I just think about?
Just like a hobby or something that you do that you kind of feel like taps into that same thing that painting does.
I feel like I'm not good at any of these things because I don't give them enough time, but there's a ton. My new one that I'm just like constantly frustrated with is gardening.
Oh, nice.
I want to treat it like I treat painting, which is very casual and slapdash and looking for moments of greatness that come out of mistakes. But there is no room for mistakes in gardening.
Not as many.
But there is just like an endless amount to learn. There's all these nuances. It provides untold levels of joy.
Yeah.
Things that you work on change over time. There's all these parallels, I think. It's about...
No, that's a good one. Go ahead. I think and there's a whole history of painters, like Monet had a garden. I think his garden still exists even. Like you can go visit Monet's garden.
I think that's true, yeah.
Do you do perennials or more annuals?
I think you can go put on a 3-piece suit and go paint in Monet's garden if you want to.
You probably can now. Yeah,
it's probably an experience on Airbnb that you can...
I would do that.
I do perennials, I do annuals, I do it all. And the vegetable garden, that's a whole another story. And the other thing about gardening is there's all this knowledge available.
Right.
People have toiled to give you this base of knowledge so that you might do even better. And that, similarly to painting, I ignore that completely and just do what I feel like doing, to my own chagrin, all of the time. And it's just there. It's sitting there waiting for you to just read or learn about it or whatever. And it will just be, it's just so helpful if you just would do it. Cooking is the same way, I think. Music, obviously, those are like maybe more similar parallels.
Tall stuff or with gardening. I remember when I realized you're supposed to put tall stuff in the back. That was like a revelation. It's like, put your sunflowers in the back and then put your shorter stuff in the front.
And then you're just like, oh, it just says it right on the little tag if you read the tag.
Right.
Backup
this
garden.
In April or whatever. I always thought I was gonna get like bigger tomatoes by growing them earlier. And when I did it a couple times, I'm like, I'll just start in February and then they'll just be bigger. And then they just die by like May.
Yep.
Because you gotta just wait.
They're just a withered sack by May. Yeah.
You gotta pretty much wait.
Yeah, you don't need to reinvent it. Is what I've.
But you got a garden going on right now?
I do. I have a garden going on. We have a little courtyard. Nice. It's very windy here.
Okay.
Where I live specifically, and so you need to pick things that are resilient, and then you need to baby things that are not. Okay. And so, like, you can build a courtyard, and that's where you put all your soft little delicate flowers and stuff. Trees for like 3 to 5 years, you're supposed to have some kind of wind block for them until they have decided they live here, and that they're not going to let the wind beat them up. Nice. But it's it's a real struggle. And the vegetable garden, I don't know. I don't get it. I just don't get it. I wish I got it, but I don't. I mean,
there's some people that can just turn it out and like they got squash like nonstop or something.
Yeah,
that's tough.
I'm gonna be lucky if we were doing seeds early season. We bought some plants. I built these beds. I followed all the recommendations on the soil and the pH and add this, add that, mix it all together. I got drip lines set up so that I can't even miss the watering or anything. And we'll be lucky if we get a salad out of the out of what we.
Tomatoes, but yeah, you're in a tough climate there too, I suppose. Pretty brutal.
No, I mean it is, but you see people who are just bountiful harvests, and I just don't get it.
We let a guy. Are you familiar with community supported agriculture? Have you ever heard of that? Where it's like it's basically like a person takes a bunch, like gets $30 a month from a bunch of people in the community, and then so if he gets 100 or she gets $100 from 100 people, what is that, $10,000? And then they like make food for that $10,000 worth of food. But we let a person do that on our farm and like have a little section, and it was just ridiculous how much food they made. Like how, we have a pretty big farm, but it was like, like a square block or something like that plot. And it was just like nonstop food. We're getting bags of food on our front doorstep like every week, all summer and into the fall. It's like, how? It's insane how much food you can make from just a small amount.
The people who can do that are just magicians. I think people who don't make art or something, feel the same way about a painter who's good at painting.
Yeah.
We're just like, I've tried. I've used all the things that you have. I have,
They talk about the brush.
Like that.
I had a friend who started painting, and it was like, it's like, I got the Taklon, 6 flat. And I'm like, I have no idea. Like, like every time I come to the studio, I'm like, I have a brush that's decent. I have my old crappy brush that's almost dead. I'm happy for that. Or you have all crappy brushes, which is pretty common too. Or are you big?
That's a comfortable place.
Are you a materials nerd?
I've become particular, but I'm not. I wouldn't say I'm a nerd. I think there's a lot of things that are great that probably would benefit me if I learned about them. I think a nerd is always learning, probably.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess I've just gotten comfortable with certain things, and I'm scared to use anything else.
No, I'm the same. I'm like,
yeah.
I have
I
like
use
4
like
colors.
the Princeton brushes that are like at the
Right.
cash register at the art supply store.
Me too. Yeah.
And then I have like a couple special brushes.
Mm-hmm.
There's this one, what's it called? Zen nickel or something like that. And there's these extra long liner brushes.
Okay.
And they make them kind of big so you can like really flick it around. Nice. And that's like a brush that until I got that one, I'd always wanted it. And then I like saw it. I was like, oh, I'm buying 15 of these. And I just like grabbed the whole jar of them at the art supply store and just bought them all.
Nice.
And now I think I'm down to like 2. I don't know if I'll ever find them again.
Right. I'm always just a flat, and then I go on the side for the straight lines. It's kind of my deal.
Oh, you can turn those?
You can turn those flat brushes on the side.
That's cool.
And make a thin line with them.
I never thought to do that. That's wild.
Yeah, I did. Like, I always, on a good day, I would paint with my students. Some days I would just set up and like paint with them in the studio. Yeah. And that was always a fun exercise because I remember when I was at the Lime Academy, this woman, Susan Stevenson, who was one of my teachers there, I think she teaches in California now, somewhere. But she was just like so nice. She was from Louisiana, and she was just like, "Oh, sweetheart," like. And then she like showed me like cadmium paint and like to turn my brush sideways, and it was like, "Oh, that's why my yellow doesn't work. Like it's
right.
It's a transparent yellow." Like,
yeah, I mean, those things also took me just forever to figure out, because I think a lot of people who understand that don't, are not great teachers. They go, get this yellow and this yellow and this yellow, and you're like, why do I have so many fucking yellows? And it's because one's a warm transparent yellow, and one's a warm opaque yellow, and one's a cool transparent yellow, and one's a cool opaque yellow. But they don't sit there and tell you that.
Or
so then you don't figure that out for years.
A Naples yellow, and you're just like, sorry, you can't use this for anything. Like, what? It's yellow. It's like Naples yellow just needs to be banned, I think.
But it's, it's tied to that classical romantic whatever.
I don't know what you use it for. I literally have no idea what to do with Naples yellow. What do people use it for?
It's good for a gray.
Okay. All right. I'll use it for my grays. I can see that. You need
to mix a gray.
Mix a little blue in there. A little blue.
Yeah, ultramarine and that, and you've got the deadest color on earth.
Okay. That's a good answer to that. That makes sense. Tell me a little bit. Well, do you got other paintings you want to talk about? Some other of your 5 paintings?
I'm going to go, just in case we spiral off or run out of time, I'll go with my number 1 pick. The number 1 painting that I would choose to have in my home that would have like the place of honor above the mantle would be The Hunt by Winslow Homer.
Okay.
Do you know that painting?
I feel like I do. Is it an old man with some like beaver pelts and stuff on his back? No. Okay, so tell me what's going on in The Hunt.
You're so far off.
What's going on in The Hunt?
It's really kind of gloomy winter day, and it's like
I'll bring it up
dusk or it's stormy or something like that. And there's these fields of snow receding into the distance. There's the ocean, like this glowy Winslow Homer turquoise ocean.
Right.
And then in the foreground, there's this fox, and a crow is chasing it.
Nice.
And the crow is like, it's like 2/3 of a crow in the top right corner of the painting. And there's just something about this painting that just does it for me. I just think about it all the time. Obviously, I don't know the name of it off the top of my head, but I do. It's made this like lasting, and there's something about New England mixed in there, like home. There's something about home mixed into like why I love it so much.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's got the animals, it's got this interaction. It's so um like the shapes are really bold, but then there's a lot of subtlety. It's got this glow. It's got everything that I want in a painting. I think maybe why I paint what I paint is just because I'm hoping I might accidentally paint this painting at some point.
Super high contrast I can to see in it, like really dark against white as well. So it's pretty loud painting in a way, you know.
Yeah, in a way.
It's the fox.
Just love it.
It's the fox going through the snow, right?
Yeah, he's running through the snow.
Nice, like really angular composition as well, but pretty quiet.
Yeah, active. We got action lines. We got it all.
What do you think's going in Winslow Homer? He was a New England person, was he not? As well,
I think so. Yeah,
feels kind of
drab. I think he didn't live in Maine. I think he spent a lot of time in Maine.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
His seascapes, and we had a lot of his seascapes at the New Britain Museum of American Art.
Okay.
So I would like see all these paintings, and there was just something about the way he painted. It was really confident and like luscious, like big, thick brush strokes.
Right.
And these gradients, these like beautiful gradients that were super subtle. Like you'd look at, like in this painting, you look at the ocean, and it goes almost from white to like a very, very, very dark blue green.
Mm-hmm.
But the transition just gets like, it just sucks you in, and you forget that it's happening, that you're like looking at this moonlight or whatever it is, just receding into the distance. There's just
it is a night. It is a night painting, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it is night actually. Yeah.
Nice. Do you do a lot of night paintings?
I used to be very into night paintings.
Nocturne.
It was all I wanted to do.
Nice. Yeah.
And I had this whole series of paintings that was called Night Swimming.
Night swim. Oh, night swimming. Right.
Night swim. And it was all about kind of pool hopping with my friends, or just like how sexy it is. It's just very sexy. The colors are sexy. There's like this glow. You have like naked silhouettes, and you have landscape features. I had all the things that I want to paint, and really
nice.
I don't know why I stopped painting those.
Go back to the night. Well, you can always go back. You could do what animals swim? Is there any animals that swim at night? I don't know.
Bugs get caught in the pool, but
yeah,
I don't know. Like, but you could throw, you could I could paint a deer doing anything, and that'd make me happy probably. Maybe some deer in some backyard swimming pools.
Could you imagine like if you got an all expenses paid trip to, I don't know, the rainforests of Brazil or something like that? Does that like appeal to you, or do you kind of feel like you're more into like the environment you're in and you have to live there, that sort of thing?
Oh no, I mean traveling to paint is what I'm going for. That's like part of the goal. It's a great way to like interact with an environment that you're in, a new environment. I find that if I paint somewhere, I'll have like much more vivid memories of that place.
Nice.
And then sometimes I have to throw the painting away, because then I just start remembering the painting or whatever. Like painting the painting, and then I have the painting, and I'm like, this is what it was like there, and it's like, that's not what it was like there. I think photos are even kind of the same way. For me, like really particularly, but I think everyone does this to some degree, where like your memory starts to just turn into the photo.
Right.
Or the photo just turns into like replaces your memory. So I think I like don't take photos of places a lot of the time, because I just want to have whatever weird memory of it, instead of some photo that becomes like the stand-in for the memory.
Those can be really, I think like with sketching, at least with me, can be a really powerful like memory connection, even if it's like some stuff on a table or you know what I mean? If it's from 12 years ago, you're kind of I can get brought back to there in a different way. Like then with
Well,
a
it's a
photo.
souvenir, right? It's like
Yeah.
that's how I think of like plein air paintings. Like it's like a low impact souvenir.
Mm-hmm.
No one was harmed in the making of that souvenir generally,
True.
unless you really want to expand upon whatever. But um,
And where were
you're not
you
taking anything, right? You're having this experience. You're making this thing. You're taking it home,
what can
and then
you
you have that.
what can you tell me about the Swab Residency? What you're doing with
Um,
that?
well, it's called adventure painting now,
It's adventure
but it
painting.
did start out as Swab.
Okay.
Um, the first iteration was called Swab because we named it Southwest American Bullet.
Nice.
And so we took this big moving truck that I think we started talking about and then never finished talking about. But I have this big moving truck,
Mm-hmm.
and me and my friend Aaron Zolpo uh, hatched a plan to take a 21-day trip through the American Southwest and paint 2 to 3 plein air paintings a day.
Nice.
And we did end up doing pretty much 2 or 3 every day and driving like countless hours to go see these weird little out of the way landmarks and whatnot. And it was just so much fun. It was like this served as this dual documentation / a thing to do all over the Southwest. Like,
Yeah.
you go see this beautiful place, and I didn't just want a picture of it. You want to do something while you're there. So that was the first trip, and we went from. I lived in Denver at the time. We went down through New Mexico, through a lot of Arizona, to Nevada, California, and then back through Utah and Colorado. And so we stopped at like a lot of national parks, and then just painted. Like, I remember one morning we woke up, we had parked out at a gas station, and we looked across the street and we are like, that's great, we should just paint that. And it was just some random spot. So
And then it's
and that
other
is,
people have done it since then, right?
yeah, on that trip we had Sophia Haymans, another painter that we really like, came out and painted the Grand Canyon with us.
Nice.
And then we developed it further and started inviting people for these like all expense paid around 2-week trips.
Mm-hmm.
And so 2 years ago, we did the whole West Coast from Seattle down to Los Angeles.
Okay.
We had 2 groups of artists for each leg of the trip. And it's just about going on a road trip and with the main idea being that you just make a few paintings every day.
And these are people you know personally that you kind of invite on, or is it like, is there ever an open call to?
We're working on there being an open call. Right? It's tough because you have to live with the people for 2
Right,
weeks.
that's true.
And we're not like getting paid, right? So it's not like, oh, it's my job to be nice to you. So it kind of has to be someone you're like, right. I'm gonna get along with this person.
Yeah.
On the one that we did 2 years ago, I didn't know personally 3 of the artists that we brought out of 5. Mm-hmm. I had never met them in real life. I'd maybe like sent them a couple Instagram messages or something.
Okay.
But they all ended up being great. And
nice.
Yeah, we had a great time. And we're actually, we've been doing these kind of like more COVID safe ones this last year, where we just go to somewhere where one of us already lives and then meet up with some people. Okay. We're not really like hosting them. But that's been great. Met a lot of great artists, and we're actually doing a version of this at the Armory in September, the Armory show, because nature really does. I mean, it includes everything, you know, even the monstrosities that we build and call cities or whatever. But it's still going to be very exciting to paint with a bunch of, painters that we know and some people we don't know, and find something pretty or something that we care about or something to point out or whatever people's reason is for painting.
So these will all be urban landscapes.
Yeah, they'll be. We're going to do the residency for a week before the Armory.
Wow.
In New York City, so it'll be like parks, but also like we have this this idea that we're gonna rent these Airbnbs and then like paint out the windows at night, like invite people to come paint out the windows at night, and that we would be kind of like keeping Toms / artists.
Yeah, that sounds great. That's a good idea.
Might get some interesting stuff from that.
For sure. If somebody, I mean, you got to find the right people, I suppose. That's the tough part, isn't it?
Yeah, you got to find some pervs that want to come paint with you,
True.
That's
awesome.
Yeah, so that's exciting. And then we're gonna after this year, we should be back to our like normal format of taking people on a big trip.
Cool. And you imagine doing this more than once a year in the future?
Yeah, I mean, this year we're gonna be doing 4 altogether.
Oh wow.
Okay. Like 2-week-ish chunks, and it feels like a lot. Feels like the max.
Yeah.
That I'd be able to do.
I mean, that's something you could really easily use as like an application to go paint in Ghana or something too, or in Lithuania, or you know what I mean, Romania or something too. It would just like cue right into dealing with the natural environment. Iceland. You ever want to go to Iceland?
Oh yeah.
I bet that's awesome. I bet Iceland's great.
I have been to Iceland.
Really?
It was in the winter, so it was kind of not that glamorous. But, how long is this podcast? I have a great story about why I went to Iceland.
Let's get into it. Yeah, we can. There's no limits, man.
No, I don't. We don't need to tell that story. That's
fine. How old were you when you were there? How old were you when you were there?
That was like maybe 10 years ago, probably.
Okay. Yeah. Nice.
So you were 26.
Okay. Right on.
But I won the tickets. I won the plane tickets to go on this trip.
You got to tell me where you won them at least.
Okay. So Iceland Air had chosen, I guess, Denver as its sister airport or something like that, and was starting these like daily trips to Iceland, daily flights to Iceland. And as part of the promo, they were doing a ticket giveaway, and it was a scavenger hunt. And there were these like marketing people from Iceland Air that were in town. And they had a lot of build up on like Facebook at the time. Now, I don't even think there was like Instagram at the time. It was on Facebook.
Yeah.
And they were like posting clues about where they would be. And then they would post a photo and be like, come find us and say the password or whatever. And you get 2 free round trip tickets to anywhere Iceland Air flies.
Wow.
And my friend, who is just like an obsessive guy and like loves contests and stuff, was just driving around with his phone, refreshing the page, driving around downtown Denver on the first day, and was there like within like 15 seconds. It was like they posted a photo and he was like, that's right across the street. He like left his car in the middle of the road, ran across the street, and they were just like, wait, what? Holy shit, how are you here already? Like they thought it was gonna take hours. They had like all these clues ready.
Oh no.
And he was just like there. So he's like sitting there talking with these people who were planning on being there for several hours. And they were like, oh, where else should I go? Where else could we go that's like a great Denver landmark? So he's like talking with these guys about where they should go. And then he calls me, tells me he won these tickets, and says, I know where they're going to go because I told them all the places to go.
Oh, no.
And so I was like so jealous and depressed that he was going to take his girlfriend to Iceland. that I didn't even like go the next 3 days. I didn't go. I didn't even try. And he was like, you got to try. You got to win these tickets so that we can all go to Iceland together. I was like, okay, all right. So he comes, he picks me up. We're like driving downtown. They post the clue. And he's like, they're at the library. Let's go. And he just like gasses it. He's like speeding through downtown Denver. Goes like, cuts across like a one-way street so that I can like get out of his car in front of the library. I run in and I'm like frantically running around. And I see like other people in there looking for these Iceland Air guys. There's like other people that are like, I gotta find these guys. I eventually like go up this escalator. The Denver library is like 4 floors. I go up this escalator and I run and I'm going up to the internet cafe, like little zone of the library. And I realize, no, I bet they're in the travel section. So I like barrel roll off this up escalator and like stumble down this hallway and like roll into the travel section. And he had to like describe these guys to me. And it was like, these are the guys. And I yelled, Reykjavik, which is the password for the day. And they were like, so anyway, it was great. I won the tickets and then I went to Portugal, but Iceland Air is great. So you have a stopover in Iceland if you want. You can stay there as long as you want. And it's still just like one flight.
Perfect.
Anyway.
Portugal as well. Was Portugal? I haven't been to Portugal actually. Was that pretty nice as well? I heard that's a spot now. A lot of people are moving there right now.
I was stunned with Portugal. It was great. And the exchange rate was great when I was there also. So we got to do a lot of like fun stuff that we wouldn't have been able to do otherwise with my broke 26-year-old ass, you know?
Yeah, I've heard that like people say that Portugal is an honorary Eastern European country. Just because like, you know, they were under like a totalitarian rule for a long time. And then there's like, you can still afford to live there and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, it was, I don't know if that's how true that is anymore, but when I was there, it was, I mean, a bottle of Vino Verde was $1.
Right, yeah.
And I think our like hotel was like $160 for 8 days or something like that. It was crazy. And it was beautiful.
I have a friend who's looking to buy a windmill in Portugal. That's a home as well as a windmill. And it's like 150,000 euro. So it's not like, and it's been renovated. You know, it's not like ridiculous, like $1 million or something.
For a windmill? You can't put a price on a windmill.
I know, right? I wonder, I don't even ask him if it worked. It'd be interesting. If you could generate electricity from it too.
Oh, that'd be nice. That'd be nice.
Put a real turbine on it or whatever. Cool.
A windmill home.
Yeah, it's a windmill home.
Would that be cool or would that be like just so
loud?
Annoying?
I don't know. He's into the windmill home. He's trying to finance it to get it.
Good luck. Godspeed.
Yeah.
Godspeed, Don Quixote.
So let's get one more painting. Do you have one more painting in your head that you want to talk about? And we can.
I do. I think
to kind of
another one would be Garden of Earthly Delights.
Okay. Bosch.
It's just chaotic in a good way. That would be like a really fun bedroom painting to have over your bed.
Did you talk about these with your girlfriend? What's her name?
Ari,
right. Did you talk about any of your
we did, but you know, I don't think we agree on any of them.
Right.
We weren't even like close, I don't think. I think Garden of Earthly Delights is the one that maybe she was the most on board with.
I mean, yeah, I think it's a triptych. I think it opens. I think you can close it actually too, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, I think it's like an altarpiece kind of thing.
Right. He was.
So that's kind of nice.
He was like strangely really religious as well, or not strangely, I guess, but people always look at him and they're like, it's all like satanic and the devil, but I think he was like really devout, actually.
Yeah,
like a devout.
He was trying to save us
from the hell and brimstone.
Yeah,
but those are amazing.
He was like, doesn't this look terrible? And we're kind of like, that kind of looks rad. I don't know. That looks fun.
But it's still a landscape too. You know,
Yep.
it's just a landscape
Still a
with people
landscape.
and creatures in it. You know, pretty much. Right on. Cool, man. Well, it was awesome talking to you.
So great talking to you. I hope you edit a ton of this out, and
I'll edit some. I got a mark. I got a couple marks for things to edit.
no, it was great to talk with you. I love talking about painting. You're a great host. You're a great painter. You're a great guy.
Thanks, man.
You're a wonderful gallerist. You're a great writer.
Whoa.
How do you do all those things? Let's talk about you. We didn't talk about you enough, I don't.
I just, you know, I have a schedule I keep to.
Do you have more hours in a day than everybody else? That's my main question.
I've had people say like they get annoyed with me sometimes because I make too much stuff, and they're like, "You're just like ruining it. You're ruining it for everybody else that's trying." I don't know. It's probably some crazy farm work ethic, but I love doing it. If I didn't like doing it, I wouldn't do it. You know, so it's pretty much
right.
I get a little goofy if I'm not creating. But now it's better because I've been able to take a break during the whole pandemic thing
Mm-hmm.
and like watch a movie. Like I hadn't watched a movie in like years. Like so.
Maybe that's where you find the extra time. I watch a lot of movies and a lot of like just shitty TV, whatever, you know.
I watch bad TV.
I love to be entertained.
Yeah, I do watch some bad TV now. I'm getting back into it. House Hunters International is really good.
That's trash. That's good for you.
Yeah. They're always just like, it's so small. The kitchen doesn't have an island. I'm trying to figure out what islands are for, like my wife and I, because I didn't grow up with a kitchen island. Yeah, they're like in those remodeling shows, they're always like $6,000, and they just throw it out there and they're like, oh, and $6,000 for the island, and it's like, it's a box. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know why they're expensive. I don't know what people do with islands, but
it's pretty wild. I mean, those people, they could have their eyes closed and they just are like, we need to gut the bathroom.
Right.
And
open
we need
concept. It'd be like a drinking game, the open concept. Gonna open concept.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, you're a great designer. You knocked down the walls. Good job.
Congrats. That architect is rolling in his grave.
Right on, man. Well, we'll be in touch as your drop comes sooner and sooner as we finish up the website, the NFT project as well.
Very excited about it.
So we're gonna make stuff actually work, hopefully. Cool. Well, we'll be in touch. And what's your social media? Where can we find you on Instagram and that sort of stuff?
On Instagram, you can find me at Johnny Defeo. And the little icon is me naked staring into the woods. And I've got a website that you can find from there.
Right on.
johndefeo.com. And soon you'll be able to find me on Solo's NFT.
That's right.
It's the main place you should find me. It's the only place you should be looking.
The balance between real paintings and NFTs. That'll be another podcast. Cool. Well, we'll talk soon then.
Sounds good, man. Thanks for having me on.
You too.